the final day of best ball draft season 2022. So naturally, I'm running a few minutes behind. Got DFS stuff we're doing. But today, we're going to hop into a big dog draft, $250 on Underdog Fantasy, as we're only a few more hours away from the kickoff of best ball season. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out for a few minutes with me while I wrapped up a DFS show. If you're into DFS, if you're going to play some DFS this weekend, I just did a show with Matt Kelly, Dario Offstein from Roto Underworld. It's on Roto Grinders. It's really good. It's really good. But blame Matt. You can tag Matt on Twitter. That's why we are running behind. Obviously, do what Silas says. I am in a big dog. We need nine more people. So we'll see if we can fill one of these babies. If any of you want to hop in, please by all means pop in here. You know that I'll be giving away EV. Happy kickoff day, as Jake says. David, we're finally here. Long off season from Tony. Let's go. Mike says couldn't sleep last night. I'm gonna bomb out after the game tonight. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The sentiment of I may just pass the hell out. Let me try to see if we can't fill this big dog. If we don't get it in the next, if we don't get some real progress in the next few minutes, we'll just hop into puppy or something. Need 9. Waiting for 9. GA. Guys, no more hot dog talk. We did that. I have not had a hot dog since. I went to the Cardinals baseball game last night. So I finished up my I waited really long for my final BBMs. And so in about 24 hours, I did a lot of BBMs to try to make sure I got them in. I'm actually kind of happy that I did that because the rooms were really like a significant amount softer in the final day. But it was a lot of drafting over 24 hours. So the wife and I went to a baseball game last night just to relax, have a couple drinks, hang out at the baseball game. And I'm legitimately repulsed by the sight and smell of hot dogs, even at the baseball game, which is a little unfortunate because that was something I really used to enjoy. I mean, no one likes hot dogs, I don't think, really, but a nice ball game hot dog was, something you go and get a 10,000% markup on a hot dog and watch the game and have a beer. I used to enjoy that. Not anymore. People next to me are eating them and not good. Not good. Definitely not. Definitely can't add anything in addition to the hot dog, as Tony says. We're not spicing up hot dogs. We're not doing get your spicy dogs here. David says, how many more years before you eat another hot dog? My freshman year of college, I got norovirus after a night of drinking beer, spent the next 5 days barfing. And this is how you know we need the seasons to start. We're talking through hot dogs and, getting sick from beer and such. But it's a very good question, David. I've thought about it more than I ever thought I would think about hot dogs. I think, I don't know, man. I haven't even wanted to smell a hot dog since then, and we're quite a bit removed. When was that stream? Typing in best ball hot dog into YouTube. That was 2 months ago. more than 2 months ago, we did that show, and it's still just like I said, repulsed basically by hot dogs. So I don't know, man. Years, to your point on the beers, I think it's years. No, this is absolutely not. Next 4th of July, I will not have a hot dog. I think I haven't had a brat since then, and I don't really like hot dogs anyway. I am a guy who likes to eat a good brat. I think next year I might be able to dip my toes into the brat world. I'm not sure we're going to fill this. We had one person hop in, and then they backed out. Somebody backed out. It's like when you get caught smoking a cigarette and your dad makes you smoke a whole carton as punishment. Just ruined forever. Yeah, it's a pretty fair comp. Well, we were going to do a big dog draft, but I don't want to sit here. I don't want to hold you guys forever. I was already a little bit late, so let's just do a puppy. You guys want to do a puppy? That way, anybody that wants to join can join. 2 people. Need 2 people for a puppy. This will be a lot quicker. Maybe we'll that was quick. Maybe we'll change. Just go back and change the title and change the thumbnail. And God damn it, 107. The last draft stream I'm going to do of the entire year is like the stone worst pick on the entire board. The 107. That's really funny. I'm trying to look at my exposures here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I think this is in, I don't remember what I have my settings. I'm trying to pull up what I have my settings really fast for the overlay to make sure I communicate correctly what ownership for. Okay, so this is my total overall ownership across Best Ball Mania and the puppies. So we've run a little bit bad on CMC, clearly here. So Andrew, we decided to get into a puppy because the big dog wasn't filling. But I did do a big dog yesterday, and I did draft an anchor. But I actually think that 0 running back is really good for the higher stakes stuff, because you really don't need to hit any sort of like stone cold nuts in the higher stakes stuff. You just kind of need to not have a terrible team. And then obviously once you get to the playoffs, you need to have a good enough team, but you're never having to beat as many people across the way. You have a higher advance rate. You have less people in the finals. And so 0 running back is actually really, really good for that. I'm going to take, I got 14% Diggs and 13% Adams. So we're just going to see if we can't even that out with little Devontae. But the like part of the perk of 0 running back is actually like, it's really good in home leagues, because you don't need to like hit on that much, and you can still beat your opponents. It's a little different in best ball, obviously. But you don't need to hit on, not really, like, just hit on a few things, a couple of running backs be decent, and just your wide receivers be, again, kind of decent. Maybe you get an elite quarterback and an elite tight end, and like, you can probably advance in a big dog. And then you get into the playoffs of a big dog, and again, it's a little bit easier to advance. You just don't need as many things to go your way with 0 running back, given the risk profiles of early round running backs. And so I'm a really, really huge proponent of it in home leagues and like smaller field type tournaments. And as you absolutely outlined, I definitely think it's more leverage. More people feel more comfortable with, I want at least one early running back. I think people are probably more prone to the anchor or hero running back in the higher stakes. they're sharper. They're avoiding the dead zone backs and stuff a little bit more the higher you move up in stakes. But I really do think that like a zero running back is like super, super strong in smaller field stuff. And like you said, it's very strong. And as David literally just says, it's at its best when nobody else is doing it, right? Because if everybody else is taking the early running backs and then taking the mid-round wide receivers, you take your wide receivers and maybe elite quarterback, elite tight end, and then they're done at running back. And now you're just going to scoop all these good. You're going to scoop the Devin Singletaries and Rashad Pennies and Melvin Gordons and Naheem Hines and Darrell Hendersons, and you're going to get to scoop all these guys at really good prices because your opponents are looking for wide receivers. Then, here's a guy I've been taking a lot more of, Tyreek Hill. You see here, I went absolutely nuts on AJ Brown in the last few days and got this up from like 14% to 24% or something. Just been drafting the shit out of AJ Brown. Finally broke the seal a little bit on Mark Andrews. You see 2% Mark Andrews. Mostly because I have 28% Kyle Pitts, and Pitts was going so much earlier in a lot of drafts that I've been doing of late. So we dipped our toes into the Mark Andrews stuff. As Mark Andrews was falling to the early third round and Pitts was coming into the late second round, I finally took a couple of Mark Andrews teams. Let's see here. What kind of starts we got? I'm the only wide receiver start. 1, 2, 3, 3 running back starts, a tight end wide receiver start, and a bunch of, see here, that's kind of the point, right? I'm going to get through 2 rounds, and there's already only one other team with a 0 running back start, and they took a tight end, Travis Kelce. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Travis Kelce, but like instantly I'm different from this entire league, which also then probably means I'm instantly different than most of the field. Now this is the puppy, but if this were a big dog, right, it would be that leverage is extrapolated, or not extrapolated. That leverage is outsized because there's just so many fewer teams. What is the let me go to what is the big dog? So 456 total teams, right? It's just not, there's hardly any teams that you have to beat. And so if you take this one approach that how many 0 running back teams do you think there are in total in the big dog? Let's call 0 running back, no running backs in the first 5 rounds. How many 0 running backs teams out of 450 in the big dog? Can't be many. So Pitts goes 303. One thing that is fairly nice. I didn't even think about this. Silas says there are less teams in the big dog than in Best Ball Mania 3 finals. You have to beat less teams in the entire tournament. I am going to take Sutton. Again, I'm at the point of I like Mike Williams. I like DJ Moore. I like Sutton. Obviously, you see I like Gabe at 40%. Gabe, what's going on with my let me refresh this. So it should be showing my exposure with Devontae Adams. Is my last number here. We'll see. It's calculating, but that is not showing. Oh, there it is. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, not that important. This is pretty funny though. The entire big dog tournament is smaller than the final round of Best Ball Mania 3. But isn't that like that's the thing. That's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about like how should you approach these tournaments differently, like when Andrew asked about 0 running back versus anchor running back or whatever in a certain tournament. It's like that's the point. when one tournament has, 500 people in the final and the other tournament has 500 people in the entire tournament, you should at least, you don't have to necessarily draft crazy different in those, but you should at least consider some different things that you can do. It's actually funny that you said that. I saved a lot of the higher stakes draft. I was just drafting in volume, the DraftKings Millie, Best Ball Mania, the puppies, the DraftKings single entry stuff. I've been drafting a lot of those over the course of the summer, just because I needed to get my volume in. And then these last couple of days, I've been doing more the big dogs. This morning, I drafted one of the $555 DraftKings tournaments, and like in that, it's very similar. It's triple the size or whatever, quadruple the size of the big dog, but it's very small field final round. Much easier, air quotes, easier advance rates. Look at this, just still giving me Gabe. What a time to be alive. You can see I'm just at the point where I just click Gabe. We don't even need to talk about it. We just click Gabe Davis, and we're going to sit back and watch him score 2 touchdowns tonight. But in the DraftKings $555 tournament this morning, I actually drafted an Eagles onslaught. So something I'm absolutely not doing in Best Ball Mania 3 or the DraftKings Millie, generally speaking. Sometimes it happens, but I'm really not trying to do like Jalen Hurts with Miles Sanders and AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, or maybe you sub out a wide receiver for Dallas Goedert. I think I might have tossed Quez Watkins at the end as my last wide receiver onto this team, but it was just basically like make a couple of bets on a couple of offenses. I think it was also a Jags stack that I had. So I had like Lawrence, Kirk, Zay Jones with like 5 Eagles on a zero running back team. That had Cooper Kupp. I got the 103 and took Cooper Kupp. But so Kyle Pitts is on that team. It's a pretty fun team. But point being, in Best Ball Mania 3, I think I'm stretching myself too thin, taking a bunch of players from the same offense, in particular when you're including the running backs with the pass game, and you take into account the fact that the quarterback is a runner. But in this other tournament where it's like it's easier to advance, the final is much smaller. I don't need to get a lot of things right. I just need to get the Eagles right. Right. In that scenario, in this team, I need to get the Eagles right, and I maybe need to get the Jaguars right. Maybe. And as long as that those work, I'm going to be in good shape. But in Best Ball Mania 3, you need to get like a much, much longer parlay right to win that thing. And so thinking those through, that's kind of the differences. And yeah, Rob, we're doing one more show this afternoon. We can see if we can get a last minute big dog in. I got to get that show set up. I'm getting excited for week 1 though. What's everybody thinking? What's the big prediction? It can be all of week 1. What's the thing that's going to happen tonight, Sunday, that is like, oh shit, we didn't see that coming, or maybe we did see it coming. Maybe it was but it's the thing that's controversial, right? Obviously, you guys know me and Gabe Davis and such, but what's up with this Kittle injury, guys? Day to day. I have more Kittle anyway. Let's just stack the Raiders, huh? Let's just stack the Raiders. Paul says Jimmy G replaces Lance at halftime. If you are in the Spike Week Discord, you know that we've yet again had another Trey Lance conversation where people are talking about Jimmy, and they didn't want Lance and all that kind of stuff. And we've definitely beat the Trey Lance conversation, myself included, into the ground. D. Weiss says AJ Brown and Hurts will look like the league winning stack. Definitely no arguments from me on that. Now we're getting bold. Mike Mike Yoakum, did I say that correctly? Mike Yoakum says Gibson, Antonio Gibson, 3, not 1, not 2, 3 tutties this week. I like that. This is pretty fun. Lundar says McCole Hardman is going to win someone a milli. I'm hoping it's MVS. I'm going to be playing MVS in DFS, but look at that. See, I can pronounce names. I might have to. We just spent, like I said, I just came from a DFS show, and we just spent. It's an hour-long show. We went through 5 games, our 5 favorite games, and 5 favorite game stacks, and we spent the most time talking about Chiefs Cardinals, and we're all very in on MVS, but I think I got to sprinkle some Hardman in, at least in the milli, especially because Lundar says Hardman's going to win people the milli. Silas says CMC will be back to being CMC. I don't know that that's a hot take, Silas. He goes at the 101 in this draft. I think most people are pretty on board. CMC. I think it'd be more of a hot take that CMC is not back to being CMC. Here's another one. Michael says season long take both Sutton and Judy go. Oh my lord. Both this is a scorcher. Both Sutton and Judy go at least 90, 1,300, and 10. 90, 1,300, and 10. Who do I got here? Devontae, Tyreek, Sutton, Gabe, and Waller. You know what I'm going to do here actually is set up. I want to set up Lawrence. I want to set up Trevor Lawrence. I have a lot of Elijah Moore and Brandon Ayuk already, and I don't have a quarterback yet. And I'm not particularly trying to draft Zach Wilson right now. Obviously, I am totally in on drafting Ayuk and Lance, but I have no issues taking Lance naked. So I have the Derek Carr stack set up, which is not something I typically do, but I wanted to start to give myself a little bit of outs. Yeah, I would often do Brandon Ayuk right there because I have Elijah Moore and those guys in the same tier, but I have a lot of that combination. If you saw on the screen, I'm not sure if the final portion of the overlay is super accurate, but lots of Brandon Ayuk with Devontae Adams teams already. And so just trying to mix it through here at the end, right? I only have a few more drafts that I'm going to do anyway. And so Christian Kirk sets me up for something just a little bit different. Yeah, I don't really. Carr could be the guy you need. It's technically true, and I might take Derek Carr on this team. When I have Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, I would assume that Derek Carr is going to do pretty well, but in a vacuum, if you will. We can see. Hold on, really quick. Derek Carr. I have 3% Derek Carr, so you can see I'm not really taking any of these guys in this range. 3% Carr, 3% Stafford, 5% Dak, 1% Brady, 0% Aaron Rodgers, 2% Kirk Cousins, 24% Trey Lance. So you can see my quarterback exposure is really just Russ, Lance, Kyler, Mahomes, Lamar, Hurts, Josh Allen. And I don't have a ton of Josh Allen. And then kind of a little bit later guys. 11% Fields, 11% Tua, 9% Trevor Lawrence, 13% Mac Jones, 10% Daniel Jones. What did I get Mariota to? I want to see. 16% Mariota, 10% Zach Wilson. So you can see I'm the elites and the late round guys pretty much exclusively. Oh, Anthony says no Herbert. No, I don't really take Herbert. Not that I'm like necessarily out on Herbert. It's just his price, for a non-runner. I don't really love the price. I take just take some of these other guys. So let's see what we got here. On deck, and we started Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, which also sets me up for. So I'm set up for Carr, Tua, Russ, and Trevor Lawrence. Not a bad price on Dobbins, but I think we're going Devonta Smith here. See, 18% Devonta Smith. It really is crazy to me that he goes around this. Silas says, afraid Kirk Cousins, that is, comes back to bite me. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I think he's one of those where it's kind of hard to explain these guys, right? Where I expect Kirk Cousins to have a good season. And I expect him to have some good games. But I don't see any scenario in which he puts up such a big season that I'm like, damn, I wasn't really drafting Kirk Cousins. I'm dust. On to 2023. It's just not in his range of outcomes. Maybe people disagree with me on that. That's my perception of Kirk Cousins. That's really my perception of Derek Carr, too, who I might draft here. But it's yeah, small miss, small hit. Yeah, you same as Carr. Like, I don't think you'll see. I have 3%. Maybe this team gets me to 4% Derek Carr. I think that's fine. He could do what Stafford did last year. Yeah, who gives a shit about Stafford? What was Stafford? Let me pull up the final end of year rankings, like the QB 6 or something. QB 5 points per game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Stafford was the QB 9 points per game. And he went, what did he go as? Like the QB 12? Like, why? You don't care if you don't have him. That's like basically exactly what I mean. Is like when you miss on Josh Allen in his breakout year, that's when you miss and it hurts you. When you miss on the guy who goes at the QB 12 and goes at the QB 12 and you take him, this is nice for Russ here. I am going to take Russ. Yeah, the Stafford thing was that a lot of people probably tied him to Cup. There was lots of Cup stacks with him, and Cup helped him, and Stafford was good. You're totally fine having Stafford on your team. Of course, I actually drafted a decent clip of Stafford last year. Some of my best teams had Stafford, but I don't view those guys as like, oh shit, I don't have enough of him. This could go bad. Like, not a big deal. Tom Brady is another one of those. Like, I'm not really concerned. And Tom Brady was better. Tom Brady was at least as cheap as Stafford, if not cheaper, and was better than Stafford. And I never drafted him, and it was fine. Not ideal, but you can't draft everybody. Love it. Jonathan Fields is my highest owned player. Definitely. The interesting thing about Fields to me is that everyone has decided the same thing on Justin Fields. He sits in a range from a fantasy perspective. He sits in a range where, okay, we're giving him a little bit of respect because he's a runner and was a high upside prospect. So we're giving him enough respect, right? Let me see really quick. If I go look at quarterback. So he goes at 128. Goes around after Kirk Cousins and goes near Tua and a little bit ahead of Lawrence. So he's getting enough respect where we're like, okay, this guy could be good for fantasy, but not enough respect where we think he can overcome what we perceive to be a god-awful situation for the Bears. And we all perceive it to be the god-awful situation for the Bears. But as Jonathan said, he's a freak athlete. He's going to run. Down the stretch of last year, he ran a lot more. And what if the Bears are just a little bit better than we expected on offense? What if Darnell Mooney is that good? What if Cole Kmet takes the leap? What if Valus is better than everybody thinks? What if Pringle is better than everybody thinks? This offense isn't going to be awesome, but the market has just said, like, he's not good enough. He's not good enough to be fantasy relevant. But we are saying that about a lot of other guys. And so he's interesting. I think that's a fun, kind of a fun stand, personally. Definitely a guy I want right here. Mr. Townsend with his 4 running backs takes it. That's really funny. But see, I'm taking Devin Singletary. That's one reason that I actually kind of like doing the setting up like a Raiders stack, because I don't really give a shit if I have Derek Carr. I probably would have taken him not here at the 103, but I probably would have taken him whatever my next pick is. Trying to scroll. The 114, I probably would have taken him there just to complete that stack and move on about my day. But if somebody snipes you on Derek Carr, like, who cares? I have Russ. I'm going to get a Lawrence or a Tua or a backdoor stack of somebody else, and it's fine. CJ says, nothing else matters. It's Gabe Davis. It's Gabe Davis time. From your lips to God's ears, brother. Just a few more hours. A few more hours, and it's Gabe season. Jonathan says, love the Raiders this year. They're a very interesting one where my brain's on them a little bit more because, like I said, just got off a DFS show where we talked quite a bit about the Raiders because they play the Chargers in week 1. And the Raiders are both simultaneously super exciting because I think Carr's good enough to support these weapons. Josh McDaniels is an exciting guy to come in calling plays. Obviously, Devontae Adams is a superstar, and you combine him with Waller and Renfro, and what we're hoping will be a higher pass rate, what we're hoping, will be a bunch of shootouts with the AFC West. But the Raiders also have some kind of like concerns that people are just ignoring a little bit. It's a bottom 5 offensive line. So people will clown certain teams for bad offensive line play and then not apply it to other ones. The Cowboys offensive line is a concern. The Bucs offensive line is a serious concern. The Raiders offensive line is a very, very serious concern. It's a bad offensive line, and there's no way to rectify that, right? It's not like the Titans who drafted Treylon Burks, and you're like, their receivers kind of stink. But if the rookie takes a step forward, it can be fine. There's nothing you can do on the offensive line. These dudes are bad. They're not talented enough to take that leap. They also don't have any field stretchers. I guess it's Keelan Cole. But if you're relying on, in the year of our Lord, 2022, if you're relying on Keelan Cole to be, your guy, that doesn't seem great to me from a field stretching perspective. So they're interesting, I really don't want Melvin. But he's definitely the best pick here. I also really don't want Ertz. So we're going to take Melvin. He's the right pick. Yeah, bottom 5 might be generous. It's bad. It's really bad. But to piggyback on that, what I was going to say is we just talked about the Bears. Everybody's like, oh my God, look at the Bears offensive line. Fields is going to be running for his life. And he is. and he is. But no, everybody's like, Devontae Adams is a first rounder. Hunter Renfrow is a 7th rounder. Darren Waller's a 5th rounder. Josh Jacobs goes in whatever range. Takes Zamir White. Dogs don't like the Raiders. We pick and choose. Think about the Bucs. Hold on one second. Somebody just showed up at my house. Shit show. Last day of the year. Can't hold anything back now. That's what the dogs are saying, I think. Got to make their appearance. Last draft stream of the year. Got to lose my shit. Yeah, the dogs are Raiders. Dogs are Raiders haters. They're like, shut the fuck up about the Raiders. They stink. Derek Carr is not very good. Devontae Adams is past his prime. They said they've been watching for 30 mentions and no mention of the dog pound. Yeah. Oh my God. Seriously. Okay, we got to move on from the Raiders. Let's see if it works. If we start to talk about somebody else. There's got to be somebody in my house. Got to be somebody in my house. I don't know what's going on. No more Raiders talk. Oh, might have worked. It might have worked. I tried to text my wife like, "Hey, can you like do something? These guys are absolutely losing their shit. This is crazy. So much work." So anyway, my team, as we start to approach here, I don't totally love taking the Melvin with Russ, but it's kind of one of those situations where it just becomes the right play. You know what I mean? Those are the interesting ones. People will do it on the opposite side. Speaking of, not the team that we just talked about that I can't talk about, but the Chargers, people will go out of their way to stack Eckler, Herbert, right, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, whatever, all onto the same team. And I absolutely do not think you should do that. Hold on. Well, now I need to decide if I take Tua. I have cover Tua and Lawrence. Most of these guys have two. I'm going to take Michael Carter and see if I can sneak either Tua or Lawrence through here. That would be sweet. Because I still got a couple of running backs here that I like, and honestly, wide receivers. So there's plenty of guys here that I'm comfortable taking. The Chargers are this one where people are like, oh, but Eckler catches passes. And I've seen so many people do this, like take Eckler in the first and then load up on the Chargers passing game and stack them with Herbert. And like, I understand the thesis, but in a large field, you know, any of these tournaments, spending all of your first 4 picks or whatever, or 4 of your first 5 picks on this offense when one's a running back, I know he catches passes, but I have 0 in part because I don't draft Herbert really, but it's something even if I was drafting Herbert, I would never do the Chargers thing. And so it's very possible I could end up extremely wrong on that because obviously I see the pass catching upside for Eckler, but I think in general, people do way too much of the running back with the quarterback thing. And it needs to be very sensitive to the tournament that you're playing in and very sensitive to the cost. Because if you're drafting Justin Herbert in the 4th round, this dude needs to be not just elite, but there's opportunity cost of other elite quarterbacks and other elite players. And so if I'm doing that and I'm taking his running back in the 1st round and I'm taking wide receivers on that same offense, the level to which this offense needs to perform is pretty crazy. And the running back and quarterback need to work in tandem together at such a level, right? This isn't Tom Brady and Leonard Fournette of last year. This isn't trying to think of what was another value type stack or whatever, right? That it isn't like taking even like on this team taking Chase Edmonds and Tua. It's not like that. You're talking about a 1st round pick and a 4th round pick, and then you're also talking about 2nd and 3rd round picks on that same offense. I think people become too enamored with what is a stack and don't kind of think through a lot of those variables to that. All right, now I just set myself up Tua or Lawrence, and I got to think about. Let me look at the quarterbacks. Do I have either of them with Russ? No, I do not. I am going to have a little more Tua, so let's do Lawrence. Got a little more Tua. Let's do Lawrence on this team. So through 12 rounds, we went Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Cortland Sutton, Gabe Davis, Darren Waller, Christian Kirk, Devonta Smith, stacked Sutton and Russ, to Devin Singletary and Melvin Gordon, another Bronco who I just ranted about not taking your running backs with your quarterbacks, and I did it. Michael Carter, and then Trevor Lawrence with Christian Kirk. David says the price is really expensive for players that all have some flaws / questions. Herbert's not a runner. Eckler with volume. Mike Health, Keenan old. Yeah, I totally agree. Nailed it. I really don't take Eckler. Probably have a couple shares of Eckler here or there, but I really don't draft Eckler. Another one that could come back to bite me, but I take the wide receivers really. There. Jonathan says Justin Herbert is a trap at his price. I really don't disagree. I think people, how shall I say this? Herbert's price is, to me, indicative of people putting in a valuation of like real life football play. And over, like, he is, I shouldn't have closed this tab. But to the Stafford point that we were talking about earlier, Justin Herbert is incredible. He might be the best young quarterback we've seen like ever, like through his first X amount of years, right? And he was technically the QB 2 last year, but that's kind of the QB 2, barely ahead of Brady, barely ahead of Kyler, and you're factoring in the fact, or you're not factoring in the lack of rushing, the defense getting better, the weapons not getting better, and this element to where what happened last year isn't necessarily indicative of what happens this coming year in fantasy. No matter how good this guy is, he's going to run a little bit. He's not Tom Brady, but he's much more like Brady. He's more like Burrow. So people talk about I might take Alberto here and just let's onslaught this Broncos team. Okay. We talk a lot about other guys through this lens, but because Herbert had the big year last year when they had a horrific defense, they were throwing like crazy, right? They're going for fourth downs in their own territory, and they'll probably be aggressive again. But I don't think we should just say, look at last year for the Chargers and apply that to Herbert this year. As David said, he threw for 5,000 yards last year, and how many touchdowns? I'm pulling it up. That isn't this. Why is this player page? This is really not helpful at all. 38 touchdowns, ran for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And like you said, 5,000 passing yards. You need that. And you're not going to get continued. There's no rushing ceiling. There's maybe a little bit of rushing, right? He's not. Again, he's not Brady, but he's kind of like Burrow. And people talk about Burrow being overpriced in what is Burrow, round 7 or whatever. How can Burrow be overpriced in round 7, but Justin Herbert is appropriately priced in round 4? They're like kind of the same. Maybe Herbert's better in real life. I'm not arguing that, but that's an NFL scouting take, and like maybe a small boost to him, put him over in fantasy. But would you rather have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd? And honestly, Joe Mixon? And honestly, Hayden Hurst? Or Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler? To me, it's pretty fucking clearly the Jamar Chase side. And so, we talked a lot about the Chargers and a lot about Justin Herbert, but that's kind of where I stand on that and why we don't have a lot of Justin Herbert. I got lots of Mike Williams, though. Lots of Gerald Everett. Jonathan says Russ has a lot to prove this year. Let's ride. Fucking let's ride. God. It does make me cringe every time I draft Russ. This guy is just such a clown. Total clown. Now, the only problem with this is, okay, I'm all right. I'm all right. Because I don't want to take Zamir on this team. I really like Zamir. As you can see, I have 22% Zamir White. I really like Zamir, but with Waller and Devontae, I don't want to take him. So I'm going to take, and I don't want to take another tight end with Waller and Alberto. I'm obviously not taking a quarterback. Wide receiver is really not something I want to dip my toes into here just yet. So I'm just going to take Jerick McKinnon and not really worry about ADP. He's just a guy I'm trying to get more of. Same tier for me as Zamir, basically. And I'm just going to take him. Particularly in the last 3 hours. of drafts. If you want them, just take them. Around early, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I would consider Zamir if he fell back here now. I got 10 picks until he goes again. He's at the top of the queue, so and there he goes. So it doesn't matter. But that's, again, where I'm just kind of breaking ties with when I spent a first-round pick on this past game and a fifth-round pick on this past game. I'm not going to also, when I have an option that I like just as much in McKinnon, I'm just going to take McKinnon. Chargers could be more. GA says Chargers could be more shootouts than Bengals, but has anyone looked at the Chargers defense? It's good. Like last year it was bad, and this year it is good. They have the division for the shootouts, but like, I don't know. I just think again, I'm not saying that the Chargers shouldn't, Herbert shouldn't be more expensive than Burrow. I do think he should probably be more expensive than Burrow, but I think he should be much more closely aligned with Burrow than with. He goes ahead of Patrick Mahomes. He goes ahead of Patrick Mahomes. He goes ahead of Lamar Jackson. Legendary ceiling type quarterbacks, and he just doesn't have that. Yeah, David says, and especially to the McKinnon point about taking him where I took him. I'm not competing in Best Ball Mania. We're gonna add on to the Jag stack with my guy Zay Jones here, but just to put a bow on David's point, McKinnon going in the 17th, 18th round and now taking him in the 14th. I don't really care that much about it in BBM. I think it's still fine to take him at pick 175-ish or 170. In Best Ball Mania, 15th round versus the 18th round really doesn't matter. However, if you are concerned about that, like David is saying, in the puppy, it's only been open for a couple of days. His ADP is what it is. You're not competing against cheap McKinnon, so who gives a shit? Yeah, Chargers defense is borderline elite if JC Jackson is healthy. Yep. It's going to be good even if he isn't, but it's very much so probably elite if he's healthy. All right, let's run down the team as I am a handful of picks away from my 16th round pick. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Cortland Sutton, Gabe Davis, Darren Waller, Christian Kirk, Devonta Smith. Obviously a 0 running back start through 7 rounds with Darren Waller. Went Russell Wilson and Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, stacked up with Christian Kirk and Cortland Sutton. Added on Melvin Gordon and Zay Jones to those stacks, and the running back room has Devin Singletary and Michael Carter, and added Albert O as my second tight end to the Denver stack. So we are in on Denver. Jerick McKinnon also added to the running back room as my RB4. So this is definitely going to be, for me, we're going to be running back the rest of the way here. These are the kinds of teams I love to 2-7-7-2 builds on these. Get my elite tight end, get a borderline elite quarterback, but the Russ Lawrence pairing to me is more than enough for 2. I wouldn't blame anybody if they went with a third tight end on this team. We talked through that last week with Pat Careen on exposure show that we did. But for me, Devin Singletary, Melvin Gordon, Michael Carter, and Jerick McKinnon, I want to get as many running back bullets as I can. So we're going to go Eno here. Yeah, we're going to go Eno here. Give myself some Cardinals contingent value upside. O asks, is Kirk, Eckler, Javonte, Higgins, Sutton, Schultz, and Devonta Smith a good 16-man? Don't know exactly what you mean by 16-man, but in a 16-team league, maybe? I don't know. I like all those guys. I'm not a big Dalton Schultz guy, but all the rest of those guys, very good. And I'm not even gonna sit here and shit on Dalton Schultz. That's a good group of players. Tyler said, DG Max drafters. Unfortunately not. The last week or so, I have had a little less free time to draft as much as possible, like I was totally hoping. So I prioritized getting my DraftKings and Underdog done. I'm going to probably try to fire a couple more drafters today, but honestly, I only have so many more drafts in me. My mental state is such that I don't know how many more drafts I got in me. GA says, hypothetical, what do you think in BBM if you took Zay Jones and McKinnon now both past 18 rounders? I think it's fine because you're getting those guys. There's a difference between an 18th rounder rising up to like, the 9th or 10th round, or what the real difference is when you get the Darrell Henderson situation last year, the 12th or 13th rounder that goes up to the 4th round, because the more early rounds you make it through, the more drastic that shift is in 2v2 quality that you're getting on your team versus that team, right? I take Darrell Henderson in the 4th round and try to beat a 13th round Darrell Henderson team. I'm giving up elite quarterbacks, elite tight ends, elite wide receivers to take him in the 4th round, and I'm getting Corey Davis or whatever as my wide receiver there. The 18th round, I'm just swapping a 15th rounder, right? Zay Jones. What did I take Zay in the 15th? So I took Zay in the 15th round. The 15th rounder, like, what's the 2v2? It's really not anything special. I'm taking Sony here. We got to talk about this. Why the fuck is Sony not going higher? We've been waiting all summer to figure out who this second running back is. People were taking Isaiah Spiller. I was taking Isaiah Spiller in like the 12th round because we thought he was in this role. Now they told us that Sony is in this role. And he's a 17th round pick. What are we doing? Why? Someone has got to explain it to me like I'm 5. Why we took Isaiah Spiller in the 12th round, and then they signed Sony, and they're raving about how excited they are for him, and he's the running back 2 in that role with a proven production at the NFL level, and we're like, no, don't want that guy in the 17th round. Someone please explain it to me like I'm 5. That's how I want to play the Chargers. I mean, I like Mike Williams. I like Everett. I like Palmer or whatever. But Sony Michel in the 17th round, especially on 0 running back teams, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Tyler says, thanks for the overlay. Yeah, it was not my intention. My intention was to max it. But, I mean, I was talking to Rob yesterday or something like that. I'm like, we're going on 1.5 straight years, give or take, of drafting best ball teams and talking about best ball and fantasy football. And this year, obviously, being the craziest and most action packed and everything, building tools, rankings, writing, all that different stuff. I just didn't have it. I just didn't have it in me. All right, one more running back. Let's just so I don't screw this up. I'm going to. I have Singletary, so I don't want Moss. I'm going to take Dontrell Hilliard. It's one of my late round guys that I'm taking a good clip of. I think. I think if something happens to the big dog, Dontrell Hilliard will retain. He's the 3rd down back in Tennessee. And I think similar to last year, he's not just he's not J.D. McKissick. He's kind of J.D. McKissick with Derrick Henry. But if something happens to Derrick Henry, I think he'll retain that 3rd down role and get some of the early down work. So Hilliard's one of my guys. Steve says Sony is dog shit. Well, so is Isaiah Spiller. Can't beat out Josh Kelly, and the team doesn't think Sony's dog shit, and the Rams didn't think Sony was dog shit. So it is what it is. I get it. I don't think he's a running. He's just a running back. But Chargers are cool with him, so I see no reason to kind of ignore that. Let's run down the draft here one final time. Yeah, this is just balancing out the Darrington Evans exposure with Dontrell Hilliard. I clearly have a thing for the Titans backup running backs. It's Sony was dog shit last year and was an absolute smash, stone cold league winner. Anthony says, do you see Herbert taking a step back like Murray did last year, as everyone was saying Murray was going to be the QB1. From a fantasy perspective, I think, yeah, the most likely scenario is that Justin Herbert takes a step back. He averaged like 23.9 fantasy points per game. Last year was the QB2. You know, he's basically right in there in the mix behind Josh Allen with these other guys. I think the most likely scenario is that he takes a step back. They didn't improve their weapons. I mean, maybe slightly, but what they did improve was the areas that make them a better football team, but don't necessarily make Justin Herbert a better fantasy asset. The defense is like infinitely better. Part of the reason why Justin Herbert was so good last year is because that defense was horrid, absolutely horrible. Why was their pass rate so high? Why were they in all these shootouts? Because the defense was horrible. Even if they play good offenses, of course, that's going to, he's going to be good. No one's saying like, oh my God, Justin Herbert should be like the QB 12. No, it's just like he should be probably, I think I have him as the QB 5 ranked, something like that. And he goes as the QB 2. And he goes in a tier where I'm missing out on all the elite breakout wide receivers. Gabe, Waddle, Hollywood, Judy, Bateman, all those guys. I'm missing out on those guys. If you go down to Kyler and Hurts and those kind of guys, it's after. That's after that whole tier. Now you're talking about Mooney, Metcalf, Cooks, whatever. I'm talking about those guys. It's a tier break for me. So it has to do a lot with the draft nuance. With Herbert. Really quick. Let's just do it from here because we went with the tried and true 2772 build, one of my favorite builds, with Russ and Lawrence, Broncos and Jags stacks, Waller and Albert O at tight end, the wide receiver room of Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Cortland Sutton, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Devonta Smith, and Zay Jones. Running back room of hold your nose for the people who love running backs, Devin Singletary, Melvin Gordon, Michael Carter, Jerick McKinnon, Eno Benjamin, Sony Michel, and Dontrell Hilliard. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Kind of love this team. You should probably stop drafting in the puppy for the rest of the way because this one's pretty fucking sweet. This is a pretty good team. This was my last solo draft stream of the 2022 season. Rob and I are going to be back in a couple hours or so, an hour. I can't remember. We'll be back soon. One final draft stream. We're going to walk through some of our exposures. Maybe we'll hop in a big dog draft. I don't know. We'll figure that shit out here in a little bit. But we'll be back again this afternoon to kind of wrap up the NFL best ball season. Have a little fun. Talk a little Rams, Bills. We'll see how it goes. But I'll see you guys in just a little bit.